Bonjour, mon ami. Do you want to become fluent in French and make conversation without even thinking, but you just don't find the time or maybe the right person to make conversation with? My name is Llyane Stanfield, and you're watching a French Minute with Llyane, where you practice with me every day for 24 days while I introduce you to my signature program, J'Ouellette Intensif, which helps you reach an advanced level of conversation. And today is day number 13 of 24, and these videos expire from Facebook. So if you'd like to have access to play them unlimited, play and replay them over and over again, please click on the link in the description of this video and you'll find everything on the other side. So today I will give you a short sample from lesson number 1, level B. Level B is the intermediate level, so congratulations for going through all the lessons or the videos, I guess, so far. This is a sample from the first lesson from level B, intermediate level. And I'm going to copy, paste this, so you're going to see it under the video so that you can follow with me exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to read, translate, explain a little bit. I'm going to explain everything that is to be explained from the phrase construction point of view. And today, I'm also going to give you the pronunciation, the rules of pronunciation that apply for each word. So I'm going to start reading now. Qui vois-tu? Je vois Pierre. À qui parles-tu? Je parle à Jean. I'm going to read it again. Qui vois-tu? Je vois Pierre. À qui parles-tu? Je parle à Jean. So, we are introducing in this lesson the inversion of the subject for questions. So, until here, we have been using est que, which est que doesn't really translate to anything. It's just marking a question. So, for instance, if I say, je vois Pierre. Je vois Pierre is a statement. So to make it a question, it's much simpler to use est que because I keep the sentence, the statement as is. I don't change it. So the question would be, est-ce que je vois Pierre? Now, this can be also used without est que. If I don't have est que, then I have to reverse the order of the subject and the verb. So instead of, let's say for instance, I'm going to change this. Tu vois Pierre, qui vois-tu? Qui vois-tu or qui est-ce que tu vois? Est-ce que is just telling me that it's a question. A statement being tu vois, the order is subject and verb, one after the other in this order. And so if I put est que in the question, if I use est que for a question, then I don't have to change the order of the subject and the verb. If, however, I take away the est que, then I will have to change the order of the subject and the verb, and that is called the inversion of the subject. The subject will come after the verb and with a dash between them, because I just need to know which subject is linked to which verb. And so it's going to be qui vois-tu? Who do you see? Je vois Pierre. And in this case, we are talking about the object direct. Who or what, right? Do you see? I see Peter. À qui parles-tu? Je parle à Jean. So here we have an object indirect. Why is it called indirect? Because it's introduced between the verb and the object indirect. We have a preposition à. And so with est que would be à qui est-ce que tu parles? So tu is the subject, parle is the verb, so in this order. But when I take away the est que, then parle and tu, so the subject and the verb are going to reverse their order. And so tu is going to be after the verb, again with a dash, because I want to assign the subject and the verb to each other. Je parle à Jean. So obviously, parler à quelqu'un. So parler, the verb parler, uses an object indirect. Voir, the verb to see, uses an object direct. And so each verb that can be seen in the dictionary for verbs, when you look at a verb, then it's going to be it's transitive direct or indirect, and that's going to tell you that that verb takes an indirect object or a direct object. It doesn't have to be this complicated. Like, you don't necessarily have to think as much grammar. My intensive program, my programs, all of them, are definitely not dwelling a lot on grammar, on explanations. So if grammar is something that you are not a big fan of, then the best way is to use patterns, and so to make examples that are telling for you, for your life. And so the brain is going to learn the patterns this way. So again, if you do like grammar, I can explain with grammar a lot. And if you're not, then you keep making sentences of the same type with the same pattern, and that's going to give you the same result. You don't need necessarily to know a ton of grammar. It can be shortcutted. Good. And now I promised a little bit of pronunciation here. So I'm going to go word for word. Let me introduce a little bit the pronunciation just so that you know why I'm doing this, because some of you may already know these words, how to say. I just pronounced them, and so you may want to memorize them the way you heard them. Now, problem is this: when we learn another language, typically our ear does not hear everything. So we think that we imitate, or we say the words the way they're supposed to be, but we're really not. And I have a problem, for instance, with ear and ear. I really have a trouble still after so many years of immersion, I guess, right, in an Anglophone country. So it is much better, much more productive, much safer, and it helps you speak much faster if you know the pronunciation rules. And now with this little text that we have here, I'm going to show you how to use the pronunciation rules. Key. Why do I pronounce it key? Because the rule of pronunciation says that after Q in French, after Q, we always have a silent U. And that's the reason why that U is not pronounced. It's not like in Spanish. In French, U after Q is not pronounced. The only exception is when Q is at the end of the word, like cinq, then we don't have a silent U after that Q, and it is pronounced. The reason I'm saying this is because I don't know if you watched any of my pronunciation videos. There is a rule of thumb in French that if a word ends in a consonant, the consonant is silent, with exceptions, but that's the rule of thumb. Now, in the cinq situation, the word cinq, which means five, ends in a Q, but Q is pronounced. Vois. OI is pronounced wa in French. And what I'm telling you right now, these rules of pronunciation, they apply throughout the language. So when you go to your favorite restaurant in Paris and you're reading the menu, you don't need to know all those sophisticated words in order for you to order your meal. You can read anything that you want without even understanding. In fact, with my students, when I do my pronunciation course, I created a pronunciation course with all the rules of pronunciation. So when I do that with them, our practice, after I give them all the rules of pronunciation, our practice is to read an architecture text. It's really beautiful, but using a ton of unknown and not common words. And so my goal is that hopefully the student doesn't understand much of what they're reading, so that they can focus on pronunciation only. And so I do this with people from 7 to 77. And so it doesn't have to be, again, just focusing on the rules of pronunciation is enough. You don't need to understand. You need to understand. You need to learn the words, but for just reading a street to find your hotel in Paris, or ordering your meal, or any other things that you have to read out loud some words that you have never heard before. This is gold. So voix, that's the reason we pronounce it voix, because OI is pronounced wa, and the S at the end is final consonant. It's silent. I just told you the rule of thumb. Tu, the U in French is U. That's all I have to say here. Je, E without an accent is pronounced E. Voir, again, same thing. Pierre. Now, why do I pronounce E? The E in the middle there is pronounced E because it's followed by two consonants. It doesn't have an accent, so typically I pronounce E when I have an accent. Well, this doesn't have an accent, but it's followed by two consonants, not only two consonants, but two R's. And so really important to know that this is an actual thing, that it's important what consonants follow after E to not have an accent but still be pronounced E. And the final E in Pierre, another rule of thumb, final E is silent or pronounced E or A, so silent. I can say, if I really enunciate, I can say Pierre, right? In a song, I would probably say, Allons enfants de la patrie, right? So the anthem, its final E is pronounced E if we want to, so we can. À qui, the second line, à qui parles-tu? À is just simple like that. The accent doesn't change the pronunciation of the sound à. Qui, we talked about it. Parle, I don't have much to say here. The only thing, the final S is silent, like our rule of thumb. And we talked about tu. We talked about je parle, same thing. I don't have an S at the end. It's just the final E that is an E. A and Jean. AN is nasal A, and that E, so E when is closed or beside another vowel, sometimes it gets dropped. So I'm never going to say Jean, never ever. So that E would be E, but because it's right beside another vowel is more powerful than E. Typically, E gets dropped. So there you have it. Grammar, I mean, phrase construction as well as pronunciation rules. So it's a little bit like algebra. It's a little bit like math, and it's not. So just these rules, as soon as you know them and practice a little bit with them, then it's going to be, you're always going to be clear in your pronunciation. So everything that you're saying, you are going to be understood by everybody, knowing the rules of pronunciation. And also that helps a lot in your hearing of what the French is speaking to you, because it's easier for us to hear something that we can say. And so once we are able to say, to use these rules of pronunciation, it's going to be 10 times easier for you to hear what the French is telling you, what the movie is saying, what the song is saying, so that you really understand word for word. I mean, hear word for word, rather than a feeling like, you know, all these like sentences are like a big word mulch, like all sounds into each other like that, which I know that most of you feel like. So that's what I had for you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that these videos are expiring from Facebook. So if you'd like to have unlimited access to the video, plus some bonuses from me, please come on over, click on the link in the description of this video, and you'll see everything on the other side. Please share this video if you liked it and if it's useful for you, and to your friends. I hope to see you tomorrow for the next video, number 14. Stay on your game and keep going for your dream to become bilingual, learn to speak Parisian French, and break your language barrier. Merci beaucoup et à demain. Au revoir.